to the magazines that carry their truth. 25 years of the same steady hand, finding the ones who fell through the cracks of the plan. From Mitcham to Croydon, from London to the world, every flaggy planet said, you matter, you're hurt, but there's a man who finds you in the car.
Yes, right, okay. We're actually live this time, which is excellent, which gives me joy, Linda. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. My friends, Tech has been playing with us, but we've won. Right? We're actually won. You know, we're here. Let's say that. So that gives me joy. I'm trying to. How do I stop sound? Okay, that's my YouTube. So we're definitely on YouTube as well. So that's brilliant. Hopefully, LinkedIn has seen that we're alive and that we are here. I heard a noise. Yay! Yay! Yay!
Yeah.
I was about to start sending messages to my friends saying we're on YouTube, not on LinkedIn. But we're on LinkedIn. William, I see you. Liana, welcome all of you. Thank you so much for being patient with us. Tech does what tech does. Tech does what tech does. Look, Bill, thank you for being here as well. Bill, hopefully you bring your YouTube friends with you, Bill. If you're on my YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. Victor, I see you as well, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, let me translate this scene better than that now, because I can just chat with Linda all day. I really can, because I have just literally been a fan, and I've been in awe of Linda for years. As soon as this event started, Linda, you're probably one of the first people in our event. I was like, right, do you know who she is? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, you should know who she is. And here you are.
Yes.
No, Bill's not happy with the way I butchered. No, it's not me, Bill. I've got a song, and the systems do what the systems do, right? So anyway, there is a 5-minute version, Bill. Yes, we can talk about that. I'm doing a book event tomorrow, Bill. I'll play your song, which is brilliant. Which is right. Leave the song alone, Bill. Let's concentrate on my star that I've got on stage today. Right. So this is Famous on Purpose Live. This is my event where I talk about my book that I'm writing, which is called Famous on Purpose, strangely. And the whole idea, I guess the premise of the book is that my business, as you see above us on the screen, it says, "We'll make you famous." That's been my motto since I started my business in 2015. Everyone else, some people have said, change it, get rid of it. I'm like, no. And literally, it's based on my belief that when people know you, when your name goes before you, life is easier. Doors open for you. People open doors literally. I say, in business, when you go to a restaurant, people want to, they're more than happy to serve you, even feed you for free half the time, right? When you walk down the road, people might stop you. They might not. You see, that's the weird thing about being famous. I'm realizing, right? Being famous is being known to the people that you want to be known to. Of course, it'd be nice to be Michael Jackson famous. Literally, but we don't all get to that. We don't need to get to that stage. So the important thing is that it's for the right people to know who you are. Your name goes before you. And of course, when you then turn up, everyone is, they know who you are, right? So that brings opportunities, that brings good things. Of course, there's also slight negatives with being famous. Being well known sounds good. We all want it, I think, but in reality, many people are destroyed by fame. So my book is really about how do we prepare. What's the reality of being famous? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How does it affect our lives, our personal lives, our business lives? And maybe also how do we become famous? These are the questions that I'm gonna pose to you, Linda, in the time that we have, right? And of course, like I say, how do we prepare? What skills do we need? What systems do we need to manage that's what when we get to that level of fame? Because I think there are expectations, there are suddenly we have different lifestyles almost. But we have to adapt to this lifestyle. We can't let fame destroy us or destroy our mission in life. Right. So that's the scene, my friends. Take it as you will, right? So to me, Linda is a superstar, like a genuine star. Like she'll tell you, like most superstars will tell you, I'm just me, doing what I do.
Right.
Really, I get that. But please, you have stories to tell, and you've achieved a hell of a lot. I was thinking earlier. In fact, my friend Josh Onley is a musician, and he's been he played big time stages, big time music. And I thought maybe I could, maybe I will, but I want to talk about famous in business, famous for different reasons, not for sports and achievement, not for music, not for dancing, not for performing, famous for being yourself, famous for doing good things. Because I realized years ago that when my kids' schools wanted famous people, they never looked at us. They were like, "No, academics? Who? Why? Business people? No, we don't care." You're like, "How dare you?" Anyway, maybe I want to reverse that, Linda. But I've talked way too much. Please, introduce yourself. Linda, say you are the star. So tell us what you want to tell us about who you are, where you've been, what you've seen, what you've done. So the mic is yours, my friend.
Ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you, because it's an honor to really talk about and express and share uh, life journeys. And I am very passionate about serving community. And what I mean by that is serving in the field of the nonprofit industry. And some people say, well, what is the nonprofit industry? Well, the nonprofit industry is one of the fastest growing big business really in the world. And I started out serving in a volunteer nonprofit organization when I was in high school. So having the opportunity of volunteering my time and service in a nonprofit organization in the early 60s, I learned firsthand exactly what it takes to really serve people and serve your community. So being able, to be in the nonprofit space, I've learned actually a lot in community building, and I learned it by experience. And so any you can let me know or guide me into our conversation, because like you said earlier, you and I can talk all day.
We certainly can. We certainly can. Please feel free to interrupt me if I talk way too much as well, which I tend to do. Right. Right. You know, of course, you have titles under your banner on LinkedIn. Right. Maybe let's start. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Right. Let's start there. And the elephant in the room is this: when I say Linda Gray, either you were alive at the time that Linda Gray was on our screens, or you weren't. If you know who Linda Gray is, then you know you know who she is. You can't not know who she is, right? And And I say, of course, you have the same name as Linda Gray, the
Yes,
actress woman, right? The
yes,
one, the one who was in Dynasty, Dallas, and I hated those shows as well, by the way. So I'm glad I don't have to, pretend I like them. You know,
yes,
right?
yes.
So
And
your name goes before you, literally.
yes, it does. And look, I'm not ashamed to that I was able to use that name in calling, making reservations on the airlines. Just using that name or having the name of Linda Gray, the infamous movie star.
Hmm.
It was some advantages, with using her name, because when I was talking with people on the phone and when I said my name, you know what I mean? It was something like they were very attentive. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And fish, for
yeah.
information about me. So anyway, I started learning about her, when we were at home watching her series called Dallas.
Mm.
And it was, a series that was filmed in Dallas, Texas. And so from that, I started researching information about her. And I noticed that she and I had some same similarities. We did. Uh,
Mm.
she she was a she won a beauty competition, and so did I.
Excellent. I
And
like that.
then yes, and then she was also um, a type of individual that was real soft spoken, and she kept a lot of things, within. She wasn't a very splashy, star,
Yeah.
and I wasn't either. But I did, any. I had the opportunity to meet this woman in person, face to face.
Really?
Yes, and I never will forget it. And I never will forget. Let me tell you where I met her. They would do the filming at this house right around the corner from me. It's in a little town called Parker, Texas, and it was actually a big home, and that's where they would film at. And so one day, and this was about maybe 5 years ago, I decided that I would go to this South Fork ranch just to visit as a visitor. Little did I know the day that I went, that was the day they were filming. And I didn't realize that. But I got out of my car and I walked, to the entrance of the house. It was a little entry area where visitors would go. And so I walked in as a visitor, thinking that I was just going to go through the museum and take a look. Well, anyway, as I was in there, Linda Gray, the movie star, she walked past me and I had to take a double take. And I was so excited, you know what I mean, to meet her that she probably thought I was crazy because
Yeah.
I said, "Are you the Linda Gray? Are you?" And she turned around and she said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Oh," I said, "I am so glad. Wow, to meet you." I said, "I'm Linda Gray too." And then
Yeah.
I started, yeah, and then I said, "Oh," I said, "I've always want to be and meet you." And I said the word, I said, "I've always wanted to be like you." And did you know when I said that, Annie, she turned and she looked at me. She says, "No, you want to be you." And that sort of, you know, stunned me to the fact that this lady says that I need to be just me. And and then I realized that I was frightening her because I was so excited and anxious, you know what I mean, to meet her. So I never will forget that was an impact on my life when she said, "You want to be you." And
Mm,
then any from that, couple of years back, that's when I met you. And you, Emmy, any emphasize, and started helping me, to say that I'm famous.
mm, mm,
And that's what you instilled in me, Annie, with a different mindset.
mm.
No, I'm not the wealthy, rich movie star, Linda Gray. I'm just Linda Gray.
You're
Just
not.
a,
You're not just Linda. You are just. But look. You're just Linda Gray. Yes. You're. Thankfully, you are. But the reality is that you've achieved greatness. You've impacted lives across the world. You see,
yes, I have.
what my friends don't know is that you are big in the charity sector.
Yes,
You're not calling not for profit in the US, but you're a huge not for profit. If you say you've won awards, you set up organizations across the world, and
yes,
people who run charities know who you are. Now
yes,
that's a famous I'm hankering after today.
yes,
You are that person, and also you're an author, you're a speaker, and and you've done the same. You educate people,
yes,
and you're that person. You're the person that Linda Gray is, and that's a great person. Let me emphasize that. Look, I always have to refer to our comments because our great friends are here, and I love to know what they think. If you've got any questions, my friends, please do ask. Right, do ask. Bill, you get the idea. Yes, Dallas. I'm sure Sue Ellen would know. You say Sue Ellen. I can never understand which one was which, by the way.
yes.
Dallas, Dynasty, and I didn't like either of them. By the way, I just didn't like them. I don't know why. I still don't like. I don't like TV programs. That's where it started, right? Bill, you got it right, my friend. That's a little bit great. Everyone knows, but this is the one that everyone ought to know, and hopefully, as I say, will make you famous, and and the more people get to know you, Linda, hopefully, like I say, it will open doors, right? So glad to be here.
Yes,
My favorite, my favorite LinkedIn, LinkedIn is, oh, I tell you, that's a new word for me, right? Mr. Cyrus, welcome, my friend. Good to see you always, always. But the link to join the studio, is in the comments. So, if you're minded, if you want to come and ask a question or share some of your insights, please do. Don't hold back, right? Superwoman Margaret, co-authors of my book. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. So hello, superstar Linda, Mrs. Linda, and all. Yeah, no, thank you so much. So of course, like you're saying, Linda, like you're all superstars. Everyone in my life is a superstar. Really,
yes,
think,
yes,
if you think about it, look, people know who you are. There was a time when no one knew who you were and no one cared. Now they do. So let's embrace, our fame and our success. I think the famous can be infamy.
yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, if you know anyone who's famous for the wrong reasons, please let me know. I love to interview them. I love to have to get their thoughts and their experiences. Where am I going next? I'm on a laptop, so my screen is smaller than I'm used to. But no, I have got a big screen. I just can't do both at once. William Rochelle. So William says, Christy, how are you doing? Oh, what? Where are you? No, I say Christy's everyone's good friend. William's a good friend and my good friend indeed. I saw Stanley Green, I think.
Who's Stanley?
Yeah, yeah. So he's here. That cheers me up no end. So welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining
Yes.
us. So I'm sure you know the era we're talking about. So William says, I went to South Park and it was super small compared to what I expected, thinking that they were all, they will live there. No. The TV things do what TV things. They're sets, right? You know, they're sets, and then there's like I mean, like you said about about the other Linda Gray. They're human. And they they're just
Mhm.
ordinary people like you and me. So I think that's a lesson about fame. Being famous, it can't get to our heads. Yes, I would say walk the swagger if you create something. If you create something that helps people, if you are doing good by humanity, walk with the swagger. Don't walk with your head down. Walk with your head up, and you
Yes.
know, embrace who you are, embrace what you're achieving. Because many people achieve nothing,
Yes.
and we can all achieve nothing by doing nothing. Yeah, but we haven't done that. We've done something, right? And we're
Yes.
here. So Stanley, Power Thinking. So glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. You know,
Too. Mm.
I see you in the rooms every so often, Linda. You know,
Yes.
so you are here to support all of us. Professor Roxana, again, another huge superstar. Maybe you don't think she's a star, but I know she's a star because on YouTube she has a big following, a huge
Yes.
following. And
Yes.
apart from that, she's known for teaching kids maths, not just on YouTube, but literally she does it for a living.
Mm.
Many kids have grown up because of Dr. Roxana's teaching. That's
Yes.
fame, right? That has to be what fame is.
Yeah.
There's many Highlanders in the comments. Okay.
Yes.
I'm almost done. So I do want to talk about your books. Obi, welcome as well. Welcome, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Definitely, you can't be the other Linda Gray. No, and it's not just two Linda Grays, by the way. There's thousands of them.
It's several.
It's a name, right? It's an English name. It's like
Yeah.
Paul Smith. There's many of them. So Linda Grays, there's so many. But
Yes.
the one we have in front of us is, like I say, she's an author, she's a speaker, and she's known for her work, her charitable work. So let's talk about your books. Of course, there's a book you haven't written yet, Linda. I'm just saying.
Yes. And the latest one that I have out, but I have not published it. But it is a book that actually step by step show individuals how to start a nonprofit organization, how to define your board members, how to set up your board policy, procedures, and bylaws. I mean, it's a full pledged how to book. And I realized that I knew that I had to write and document all of the information and knowledge that I received over the years. I have approximately set up about close to 500 or more nonprofit organizations, literally, from the time I started in 1998. Okay, so um, I definitely wanted to put out this book that would be a guide that would have everything you need to know about starting a nonprofit organization, growing a nonprofit organization, and sustaining a nonprofit organization. Because, in other words, in order to sustain a nonprofit organization, we have to develop a revenue generating stream of income. For instance, creating a store, developing a shopping center, developing a bakery, creating a business model that you can continue to generate income and serve the community still. I never will forget when I lived in Mobile, Alabama. And during that time, we went through Hurricane Katrina. Now, that was an event that happened that changed the lives of the entire country. It really did, because I had the opportunity to volunteer my time and services during the Hurricane Katrina. I was able to see firsthand totally destruction on, the land, the community. And I had the opportunity to receive several $1 million of grants that I was responsible for writing, and they were awarded. So it was a great opportunity to actually commit to serving the community, to continue to serve nonprofit leaders, because they are the backbone of this industry. Without them, there is no uh, charitable entity. And I've had the opportunity to receive grant funding from President uh, George W. Bush, the senior
Mm.
president. And I had the opportunity to receive grant awards from Clinton, President Clinton. So Bush, Clinton got together, both of these presidents got together and created a Bush Clinton Foundation for hurricane victims. So the application was for churches to receive funds, federal funds, and private corporate funding to rebuild the churches that the hurricane destroyed, the weather of that fix. So I've had that great opportunity and experience. And that's how I learned how to write grant proposals, just from experience. I didn't have any formal training in it at all. It was just based upon the experience and reading and researching and studying the guidelines for these applications. But since then, we have the opportunity, and I'm saying right now, at this pivotal time in our communities, even in our states, even in our countries, we have the greatest opportunity to apply and receive a
Mm.
lot of funding
Mm.
right now.
Oh,
Lifetime. I'll just say that.
yeah.
You want me to stop?
No, no, please. Yeah, no, no. I could listen to you talk, all day. I literally could, really, because you're talking my language. I should explain. I should explain why. No, Christy, excellent work doesn't cover it, but it's close, right? Thank you so much, Christy. Excellent, remarkable work. She's done this all over the world. Literally, there's charities in Africa that have your name on them. You know, Look, not many of you know, in my last life, literally my last life before I started my business, I used to run a charity.
Hmm.
So I started off as a manager, because I was a manager in my youth. I was never a worker anywhere, amazingly. Lucky me, right? And then I got to the top of the charity, and everything you say is so true. A lot of people think charities are nice to have, will help people things. They're not. They're money making machines. They're the best businesses you can get. If you're not a good business as a charity, you're gonna die. You're gonna sink. And charities have to have a lot of money in reserve, because no government lets you collect money from people that's unsecured, that is literally unsafe, that might flitter away tomorrow. They might close your doors, right? So our thing was services contracts from local government. But now you can also say that's not really the point. Here's the point. The work not for profits do for our communities is I'm amazed how people don't know more about who's really helping people in our communities. We think it's the government, local government. We think it's our taxes. It's not. I say literally, charities are the ones who keep us alive in every community, in every country. You're amazed
Yes.
what the governments are not doing. I was amazed. Literally, kids with mental health, kids in care, kids who are people who are pregnant, asylum seekers, refugees. I'm saying I could carry on. Young runaways. They're the ones that we served. So we started off with I think four staff when I joined the charity. By the time I left, we had 32 staff. And
Yes.
literally, and you have to make the money to pay them. He said, "This is it's like saying charity is a business. If you're not a business, then you're not going to last long at all." But
It's
when you say to get as far as to get to the levels that you've got to, grant funding applications. Let me talk about that for a second. How do you do it, Linda? They're so destroyed. I tried it. They're so destroyed. Because almost 9 out of 10 you get no. 10 out of 10 you get no. They're like, no, no. Sometimes no response at all. I just could not. I could. The pain in my soul, Linda. So I went for contracts instead. At least contracts, there's requirements. You know what you're doing. But it's a skill. And again, I think every time that people heard you are the applicant, Linda Gray is the one doing the application, they're like, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, we're listening. We're listening. Can you really do what you say you're going to do? Is that how it works for you?
it's so important for grant writing is an acquired skill.
Yes.
It's acquired. You know what I mean? You're not born with it. It's just an acquired skill that you actually go by guidelines. Every application have guidelines. It'll tell you, are you eligible? And so we know as a nonprofit organization, to be eligible, you have to be a IRS 501c3 entity. That's standard. So with that, and it's really our tax dollars, all of the tax dollars that every citizen, when you go and purchase at a store, whatever you buy or purchase as far as travel expenses, those are taxes that have to be paid on those expenses. So tax dollars are federal dollars, any tax dollars are the federal dollars. That's how federal grants are. They are developed by tax-paying dollars. So ever since we've been paying taxes, and I think it's a saying that there are two things that you do in life. You grow old and you pay taxes. You die and you pay taxes. Those
That's number three, right?
right.
Yeah.
So it's been hidden from us of what our tax dollars are. Our tax dollars are federal grants. So anytime that you go on the website grants.gov, grants.gov, when you pull up on that website, those are all of the federal grants in the entire United States of America. And all it is taxpayer dollars that's been accumulated for 100 years or more. That's it. And that's what we're not told. We're not told that our taxes that we pay are the federal grants. And the government is just only the managing agency. They just manage our tax dollars, these grant funds. So, we have to know the system. And that's what we have to realize, that our opportunities to even apply for grant funds as an individual, we have that today.
Hmm.
Right now, each and every one of us can go on that website and apply for federal grants where we don't have to have a 501c3. We have to have a skill or a certification to apply. So it's been a challenge for me when I'm teaching and telling people these things. It's hard for them to believe me,
No,
but I'm
again, look, I know, of course, you're totally right. Again, a lot of us rely on local government to do things, local councils, local authority to do things. And, at the end of the day, what you're saying is the truth. It's on us to help our community. And the money is
exactly.
there. If we're
Yes, it
willing
is.
to, of course, register your organization. I think that's what a 501c thing in the US, right? In the
That's
UK,
right.
it's like being a registered charity, and with that comes things, structures that you must have, board of trustees. That way, you don't steal the money, so
Yeah,
no one
board of
steals the money,
directors.
right? Yeah,
Hmm.
you have to have the structures you must have. Look, before we go on, we're in public, Linda. So I'm gonna do what I shouldn't do, which is say, please, Linda, can I publish that book for you? And then let's launch it. Let's go with it, please.
You need to do it.
Yeah, thank you. See, there is a God. That's why we're here today, Linda. For me to publish a book.
Yes, I would like for you to publish it. Yes,
Oh, she said that out loud. You made my day.
yes,
We can all go home now. We're done, right? I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Look, that would be such a privilege. So we'll
yes,
talk afterwards
yes, we
and
will.
get that done. Let's talk about I want to talk about your journals, but let's say your journals. Tell us about your journals, and then I'm going to ask you about what's the journey from volunteer to the person who can talk to the presidents.
Right. Okay. And I grew up in a town in Texas, um, and it's Midland, Texas. Everybody know Midland, Texas. You can just say that name, and the first thing that'll come up is cattle, cotton, and oil. So being born and raised in that town, I grew up facing segregation. In other words, I never will forget being, 6 years old, um, looking at a water fountain that says colored only. And then next to that water fountain was another water fountain that said white only. And as a curiosity child, I actually was afraid to drink from the colored water fountain because it was visually dirty. It was dirt. It wasn't clean. And then when I look at the white uh, only water fountain, it was clean and shiny. And so I was afraid as a little girl to drink from the colored fountain. So I didn't drink from the colored fountain. I would go to the white fountain and drink my water. Now, during that time, I didn't realize as a little girl that was against the law. I could have been arrested. You know what I mean? My parents could have been held responsible, you know what I mean, for me drinking out of the white only water fountain. But it was just visually appealing to me to drink from the white fountain because number one, it was clean. And I thought as a little girl that the water that was coming out of the colored uh, fountain was dirty or something, or would make me sick. So that's what I grew up with. And the same with the restrooms. They had a white restroom sign for white only, and then they had a restroom for colored. So going into the colored, uh, uh, restroom, it was unclean. It wasn't clean at all. It wasn't. And then in the white restroom, it was clean. So I felt comfortable and I would go into the white restroom. Now, mind me, there was no one around visually, to see me. I didn't pay attention, but I was just that curious little girl. But during that time living in Midland, Texas, my mother and the mothers of my classmates and my peers, they worked, they served as maids with very rich oil people. You know what I mean? I mean, all industry. So I was around and we grew up where our mothers and our fathers, they worked, for the white people because they had the money. So they served as maids and attendants, and that's really where we were able to only make a living, literally. So one particular president family that we grew up with was the Bushes, the elder Bush, George Bush, the senior Bush, his son, George W. Bush. They're from our hometown. They were from Midland. You know what I mean? So they, were very rich with oil. They had it, and my mother worked for one of the largest Drillco oil company in Midland, and she was their maid for almost 20 something years. My husband's mother was the elder Bush, their cook. She was hired to cook for them. So, we grew up in a place where there was nothing but richness and funding. You know what I mean? And that's how I became curious of learning where our dollars are as far as community development, community opportunities to serve. And so yeah, Annie, you got to publish my book on how to. So I've also to learn that in the nonprofit industry, it is the fastest growing industry in the world. Now I'm having clients, people reach out to me that own businesses, and they're asking me to set them up as a nonprofit so they can definitely be able to provide some resources to the community as setting up the nonprofit entities. So we have the opportunity, to do that. It's lawful to do that. And we just want to be able, to live in our community and exactly utilize our tax dollars in reinvesting back our tax dollars into our community. So I'll regress right
Yeah.
now.
No, it's amazing thing you do. Sarah says, "What a legend!" Because you are truly a legend. Now, as you're talking about the times that you grew up in, I suddenly remembered. My friend, our friend Bill William Rochelle has published a book And the bogeyman was built. It's a story of essentially Black history in the US, really. And what you're sharing about the taps and segregation. Of course, and that's well known. But I think the mistreatment of people, the unfairness of society that Americans live in, especially for Black Americans. It goes back hundreds of years. It goes back a long, long time. And Williams book captures it and educates us beautifully about what really happened. Bill, like I said, I always sing your praises, and I always will, right? And so the book is called "The Bogeyman Was Built." Now you can get it on Amazon. I've even given you the link to get it on Amazon.com in the US. Of course, in the UK, just put .co.uk instead, right? Get the book. It's enlightening, especially if I think for our kids who don't know what went on before. I mean, knowing our history, knowing where we've come from, is such an important thing. Now, Bill, that's for you. I'm doing you a good turn as I should, right? But now, Linda, look, of course, So one day, you're a volunteer. How does one scale the heights? Is it just hard work? Is it just is this the success that you have that gets them knowing who you are and they coming to you, or what are we missing? What's the journey look like for us to go from zero to something?
You know what? It's hard work. Anything worthwhile in serving is hard. When I say hard, not hard to the fact that you can't do it. It's just because we have to learn how to collaborate. And that's one of our, I say that's the number one issue with us as community leaders. We don't collaborate. That means that we can set up hundreds and thousands of nonprofit organizations, but if you don't use these organizations to collaborate with each other to get a bigger piece of the pie, that's what we're missing. And
I love that.
collaboration starts in your community. Right. So if you have a nonprofit organization in your city, town, or whatever, you want to identify the other nonprofit organizations that are in your city, in your town. You want to know them. You want to reach out to them. You want to collaborate with them because that's the key. Collaboration is key. That's
Love
where
that.
you get the $1 million grants from, when you collaborate. And any, I didn't speak upon my experience uh, doing nonprofit work in Africa.
Please,
Um,
please, please, please.
and
Tell us.
yes,
Tell us more.
yes. Um, I was introduced to Africa by my husband, Robert. Robert was employed with ExxonMobil, one of the largest oil companies in the world. He was hired by them, and he spent his entire employment history in the continent of Africa. He actually worked on, and a part of his employment was the oil production wells out in the water. And he worked in this country, Lagos, for years. As a matter of fact, he spent 20 years of his 38-year employment in Africa. So, as you know, when he was over there, he started in encouraging ExxonMobil to develop some projects, charity projects, there where he was. And they sure did. Because the corporate companies, that's what they want. They don't want to do the work themselves, they want to delegate this work to nonprofit organizations that can make a difference. So, from that experience with my husband working in Africa, we were able to adopt 3 orphanages. We did, my husband and I. And that's how we began to doing the work in Africa, which is one of the best opportunities that we can invest in to provide some services to the continent of Africa. It's one of the best lucrative opportunities that a nonprofit organization can start. And what I like about signing to be a 501c3, when you sign up to be a 501c3 in the United States of America, that designation allow you to receive grant funds to serve all over the world. That's the benefit of setting up your organization structurally through a 501c3, where you can actually serve in every country except for the countries that are barred from us serving at. And there's a list. And one of the most heartbreaking moments for me was when the USAID.gov was taken away, was removed. That was the most devastating impact left that is beggars description. I mean, I'm still, and I'm sure others feel the way as I do, is that that organization was a lifeline in serving the continent of Africa, not only the continent for Africa, but all other countries that actually the United States benefit from. Because that's one thing about the United States. They benefit from the resources of all the countries in the nation. So, I wanted to share that because that was an experience and what's shaping me to where I am today and the commitment I have, for volunteering. And one other, I love to volunteer with an agency. It's called SCORE, and it's funded through the Small Business Administration. And I want to encourage us to take a look at SCORE and their website. And it's SCORE, SCORE.org. Again, SCORE.org. And
Yeah.
I want to encourage us to take a look at that website because it will help our businesses. It will also help our nonprofit growth in serving the community. And and I'm so happy that this is my 25th year serving as a SCORE volunteer for 25 years, and I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to volunteer my time and services to give back to our community and to make a difference in nonprofit lives because my expertise is nonprofits. You all, they're my babies,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah. No,
nurture nonprofits. So, okay.
yeah. No, I can hear, as you're talking, of course, my friends, if you, here's what I'm getting from Linda today. if you want to get somewhere, get serious about the work you're doing. Get passionate. We can hear your passion, Linda. We can hear. Yeah. It's, the mission is to help not for profits, and that's your thing, and that's what got you this far, right? That's what's got you around the world. That's
Yes.
what's Look, as a Nigerian, by parents, yes, I'm a Nigerian in the house, but still, I will say this: bless you is what Nigerians say to anyone who does good for us, right? Bless you and your husband, indeed. Really, it's an amazing thing that people do, right? But look, so you're gonna get serious, aim big, but keep the mission, keep the purpose front of mind. Your passion for the cause must never die. It must never diminish. If you want to be famous, we have to keep, we have to be here to serve. When people say that, some people think we're just talking. It's a cliche. It's not a cliche. It's a reality. I think almost every famous person I know is famous in any world in terms of, famous for doing good things. They're here to serve. Even an actor, they're just acting, but that they are. It's an art. It's an art form. They are doing something that they're truly passionate about to tell stories, to entertain people, to inspire people. I'm saying there's always a greater cause to the famous person's existence than simply just being well known. And so I love the fact that you say, the fire still burns within you today to help not for profits. That's a road to success, right? That's a road to greatness, if you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah, but in terms of your journey to the top, if you could give us three things. I mean, you've mentioned collaboration. I think it's hugely important. Again, many of us into our own thing. But the point you're making is that organizations that collaborate together create a bigger entity, and you can serve more people, right? You can do more good. Collaboration really is one of the big things that I'm hearing from you today. And I mean, what else would you say that we need to bear in mind if we want to get famous and if we're on that road?
What I definitely recommend is businesses, entrepreneurs are the strength and the backbone of economic development all over the world. It is important for entrepreneurs or business owners to collaborate together with a nonprofit organization to create a opportunity to build from one another, because number one, a nonprofit organization is set up to receive funding based on serving a mission, purpose, focus. And look, nonprofit organizations purchase business goods and services. So I'll give you an example. A prime example is for a nonprofit organization to partner with a for-profit business. Let's just say the business is in t-shirt making. That's a great opportunity for both the entrepreneur and the business owner to collaborate together, so the nonprofit organization can request and get grant funds to purchase goods and services from a for-profit business. That's the key. They do it every day. Every day is happening. The Fortune 500 companies, that's what they do. They buy from entrepreneurs, purchasing the goods and the services, and then they collaborate with the nonprofit organization to get the message out and get the community engaged in serving and increasing economic development power, because the key is actually acquiring billions and billions of dollars to be reinvested back into the community. So I'm a firm believer for-profit businesses networking and collaborating with nonprofit organizations, because that's the key. That's the key. And that's what I would leave uh, to us, since we're in a season now where the dollars, I mean, we will never run out of funding ever.
Mm.
It's dollars every day, all day, forever. So we never run out of funding ever. So whenever we hear these things, government shut down, okay, the functions have shut down, but the funds haven't, because they keep
Yeah,
on growing, growing, growing.
yeah, and the more we can access those funds, the more that we can serve more people, right? You
Yes, we
know,
can.
it's
Yes.
it's very logical. But it's not something we think about all the time. Say, look, I think I love that for what it is. We can collaborate, we can work with others, work with not for profits, work with businesses that are for profits. It's all about building that bigger piece that can serve more, right?
Yes.
The more we collaborate, the more money we can raise, the more we can serve, and our success, our impact, then brings our success. Is what I'm looking at it, right?
That's right. And the bottom line is that it takes funds. You cannot operate a nonprofit organization successfully unless you have the funding to hire employees. That's the key.
Yeah,
You have to hire staff. And then the staff that you hire, they are, they have to make enough employment dollars to pay for their mortgages and to pay for their living expenses. You know what I mean? So it has to be a win-win situation. But
yeah,
and then we have to set up our nonprofit organizations as profitable businesses, because that's what it is. It's a business.
I
Nonprofit
agree.
is a business.
I
Period.
agree. I
Yes.
agree.
So
I agree.
anyway, I
No,
guess I'll
no,
stop.
no. Maybe having a different approach to things is part of the necessary capabilities that we need to get somewhere, right? Would you say? Would you agree?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Having a unique approach that actually does work. I think it's not just doing what we do. It's having a way that moves the needle, so to speak. Especially for the people that we're here to serve. We
Right.
have to have that thing about us that really does make a difference. Yeah.
Right.
But I say no. Again, there's much to learn. I say your book is mega exciting, but no, as soon as we finish with it, we'll work out how we're going to get your book published, and then we'll go from there. Look, let's come back to you, the famous person in my life, right? You know,
Okay.
is being successful, for all you've done, all you've achieved, all you've impacted, for as famous as you are, Linda, is it what you expected?
Hmm. You know what? As a little girl, I did. I mean, I saw visions of me standing in front of a big, huge crowd, and I was teaching and instructing And so I've always had that anticipation that I would do what I'm doing. I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes it's hard to brag on yourself.
Mm,
It is. It's hard, you know what I mean, to lift, and lift yourself up, you know, especially when you're doing the work
mm,
because you're so busy, doing the work and haven't, me personally, having a hard time of, I guess you could say, patting myself on the back. And because this conversation with you, Annie, you done pulled out more than I would ever even thought about saying about myself. So I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me. But it's critical now in this season. And look, we want to also, I, don't want to, not bring it up political, but we're having another election. And depending on who will be voted in this election will determine the goals, you know what I mean, and the opportunities for economic development from the least to the most, from the least to the greatest. And it has to start at the grassroots level where you are in your community, on your street, on your block, in your city. So I'm just so excited to have the opportunity, and I look forward to get my book. I've already written it.
excellent, excellent.
It
I
just
mean,
needs to be published.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, there's often a process to go through, but we'll discuss the process.
Mhm.
Look, please, I guess everything we say is recorded, and I will transcribe it. So when I say things that sound like obvious, but no, I just want to make sure that it's actually in the content I look at the end, right, to include in the book.
Yes.
Right. When you told your kids you were going to write a book, what did they say? Please,
Well,
I think it's symptomatic of of real life. You know.
well, because it was telling personal stories about my family.
Mm,
Personal, life, stories. And so when I mentioned it to them, they said, "Oh man, you're going to expose all our business." Well, not intentionally, but to share, my experiences in growing up. You know what I mean? Because each of us have our own journey and our own life story, and that was mine. That I want to share. Um, I, I didn't want to. I'm not sharing it. Want to share it for fame, but I just wanted to share it because it was something inside of me that need to come out, and it may help somebody. It may, and I know I'm not the only one that have a story, because we all have life stories that we can share. Um, the book that I want to publish is a how-to book
mm,
in the nonprofit industry. It's everything that you can do and get access to start and grow and maintain and sustain your own nonprofit organization if you want to start. Or it's just a companion for a reference, because I've included a workbook as a complement to the book. So we'll have to talk about the personal
yeah.
book.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
I'm
those are
glad.
fun.
I'm glad. You you can see that you have at least two books: the personal book
Yes,
and then the not-for-profit book and the
yes,
personal book.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be my ideal world because those journals you have. I think there's greatness in all of them. I'm saying there's stories in there, there's experience. This lady has a journal for every
I
year.
sure do.
I'm saying that's a lot of journals, right?
Since 1996,
Wow.
every day.
No, 1996. I think I was in high school then.
Yes,
And I mean, as I say, I was in high school in
yeah,
'96. I was a youth in '98. So I'm saying literally, there's gold in there. When we'll find a way to make sense of it and then
yes.
get it onto a computer somehow. There's people that can help us. Look, coming back to our reality of being famous. What's the good side and what's the not so good side of being well known, of being successful?
Well, the good side, for me is when I have prepared the grant applications and they have been accepted, and they have received their 501c3. And I can truly say, I think I've only made two mistakes in preparing nonprofit organization paperwork. Only two. And I think that's a track record. And and then having joy when I learn about their events, learning how much funds they have raised, due to my support. That makes me happy. And I did get a report a month ago where one of my SCORE mentees, right, I helped her develop what you call a pitch deck. I think it's so important for nonprofit organizations to create their PowerPoint slide presentation, maybe 7 slides only, just to summarize exactly what their nonprofit organization is, the meaning, the goals, and what you want to accomplish and create that. Well, one of my mentee, right, submitted her pitch deck and she was awarded $150,000 from that pitch deck. One of the foundations, they accepted her pitch deck and want to award her. As a matter of fact, she'll be receiving her award recognition on October 1. So I'm so happy about that. So that what gives me joy, when I know that I had a part in helping, organization leaders and individuals, reach their dream and their mission and their purpose. That's what makes me happy. That's what gives me joy in the
Um,
nonprofit industry.
yeah, no, for sure. So I hear the need for aiming for excellence in all you do. To make only two mistakes, in a lifetime, essentially, is what is pretty close. I'm saying that is high standards, really high standards. And that's remarkable. Again, I think I think that's a big point that not maybe we should realize it because when I look at famous people today, many of them risk being brought down by the not excellent things they're doing. I'm saying if we look at Zuckerberg and Meta, Facebook, as it's called, right? You know, things that don't help people can bring you down. So making mistakes, their mistakes, making wrong choice, bad choices can bring us down very easily. Whereas I think we can aim for, genuinely being of service every time, and aiming for doing our very best that we know how to do, right? You moved your screen, I had a feeling that was going to happen. Linda will come back. Linda will come back. She's known not to play with her screen. Mr. Curtis, how are you doing, my friend? It feels like a long time. It's not really, but no. Look, a week's a long time. I was away for a couple of weeks, so I've missed you, my friend. How are you doing? Have you got any shows going on? No, thank you for joining us. So my guest will come back in a second. She made a mistake of touching her phone to change the camera settings to make it widescreen, and then she disappeared. But she'll come back. We've done this a few times today because of the way tech works. Anyway, look, my friend, I could talk to Linda all day because I think she's remarkable for what she's doing, for what she's done. I think I think we can all learn from her for sure. If we strive for success, if we strive for to achieve big things, and we have to also strive for some of the things that she's talking about. Excellence, aiming big. Having our own principles. I think, Linda, I'll say definitely have your own principles, which are worth sharing. Okay, so Linda, I guess there's always the question I have to ask, which is, what are the challenges of being famous, Linda? Now, what's a negative side that you've seen or experienced?
Well, for me, um, I guess accepting that, who knows, I might become a big billionaire. And look, that comes with a lot of responsibility. And so, we have to, I know I would have to, is to learn how to accept, the status. And that's with a mindset. And then, but I tell you what, it wouldn't be a problem for me to write out checks every day to nonprofit organizations because I've seen myself in a vision doing it, having this big, huge checkbook at the table I'm sitting at and just writing checks consistently to nonprofit organization. That's my dream. Besides, taking care, of my financial self, but other than that, having the joy of, writing checks and giving it out consistently
Mm,
to nonprofit
yeah.
organizations.
Again, I hear your passion for the work you do. I really do. Look, does fame always come with money?
Yes.
Tell me how.
I tell you what, uh, it's a it's what you call a journey that I've been seeking after for years, and then when it finally comes, I feel that I have to give more, before the good Lord, you know, take me in.
Mm.
So um, that's about all I can say about that. Any.
There's much we can learn. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad you're here. Of course, I know you got a heart of gold of helping people as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Look, I'm more in awe of you than I was before we started when I knew you were great. So thank you for sharing with us. Is there anything else that you want us to bear in mind on our journey to becoming famous and successful?
And what what I really want to emphasize in our nonprofit organizations, we have to have some policies and procedures in place. We have to make sure that our governing bylaws are in order. We have to make sure we have conflict of interest policies. We have to be accountable and good stewards over the grant dollars that we receive in order, to make impact. Because it's so important now, um, in this season, that we have to build our organizations of high excellence, excellence in everything that we do and pursue. And we have to be accountable. So, nonprofit organizations that have board members, the board members are what you call the fiscal responsibility people that govern and oversee all of the aspects of the nonprofit organization. Because if you do not, be accountable and fiscal responsible, then it leaves a black eye on other nonprofit organizations. Bad taste in the mouths of funders when they see nonprofit organizations that are not accountable and do not have their records and their financial house in order. And I also recommend nonprofit organizations to get a audit of yourself. Invest in an audit on your nonprofit organization, even before you are asked to be audited, because we will at a point in time. But we have to have good financial data and reports, and we have to be accountable in our organizations. So I definitely want to express that more and more.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Excellent, and always do what you do with excellence. Look, you're talking not for profits, but I think everything you say can be extrapolated to any other business. To be fair,
Yes,
right? Aim for
yes.
excellence. Have the right structures in place, and the passion never dies. I love your passion. In case I didn't mention it, which I didn't, so let me do it now. Yesterday was Linda's birthday, so happy birthday, Linda. I mean that sincerely. I mean, how do you enjoy your birthday? Like, what did you do? Anything exciting?
Listen, I mentored on my birthday yesterday. I had mentoring sessions uh, on my birthday. I did have one good highlight of my birthday yesterday. My grandchildren all um, reached out to me, and that was the highlight of my day yesterday. It was my
Uh,
grandchildren.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And again, I think we might have ideas that famous people, successful people, do grand things all the time. I'm seeing that many just want normality. We just live it. We live a normal life, right?
Right.
Yes, we're who we are. Yes, we do what we do, but no, underneath all of that, we're just normal people. Just want a normal life, family, you know. And of course, having a mentoring session, I don't know where to put that. I mean, no, I'm not doing that on my birthday. I'm not doing anything constructive. I'm just gonna sit around and laze around and enjoy my day. Then about 10 to
Mhm.
midnight, I start thinking, oh, tomorrow's coming. I'm back to work tomorrow. You
Right.
know, so look, Christy, look, thank you so much. Look, we pray, Christy, we pray. Like, I will work with Linda and try and get as many books as I can, done with her for sure. We can't just let them go and your books. That goes nowhere, right? So we have to make sense of it somehow. And there's more than one book in there, Linda. I know that for sure. The series, yes, for sure. I see what you're
Right.
saying, Christy. Yeah. Mr. Curtis, even Williams missed you too, and you say, where have you been? I'm sure we can sort that out. You're both here, so we know you're both fine. You're both still inspiring, educating, and doing the great things you do.
And I'm
Bill,
glad that you're reading these out because they're scrolling, but I can't read any of them. But I am so grateful of the comments that are coming in from the viewers.
yeah,
They mean a lot to me. They really do. So thank you all.
thank you. I am forever indebted to my friends who turn up for us. No, so you're part of that, Linda, for sure. I've said it many times. Whenever I see you in the audience, I'm genuinely cheered up. I'm like, wow, she's here. Like, there are many people that I think maybe we go in phases. That there are people that brighten my day when I see them. Bill, you're one of those. Curtis, of course, you are. Christy, for sure, right?
Mhm.
Lisa, thank you so much for being here. Of course, there's Lisa Feather. There's many others. Anyone who gives us a time makes my day. Because
Yes.
these events are for you. And say when you engage and you cheer up my amazing guests, then you brighten my day even more. Now, the only thing that brightens my day anymore, really, is when I get a message from someone saying, I really enjoyed your show earlier, and I learned this, and I'm like, wow, thank you. So, that truly makes me so happy. But look, everyone say, I thank you all for your time. I thank you to,
Thank you.
for sure, Linda.
Thank you.
You're the star, and I know you are. It's amazing
Thank
to
you.
to experience, that I spend some time with you and to see that, you are a normal person.
Thank you.
Isn't that what writers all about? However big we get, however successful we get, however, the many millions we make or don't make or raise, I say, we're still humble, normal people who try and
Yes.
get better every day, right? We're always
Yes.
learning as well. Your mentoring session, I put into constantly learning to be better, to be better.
Yes.
I
Ever
said,
learning.
I'll leave here today with two mistakes in your work over generations. That sticks with me. Aiming for excellence. I said that really, you know, it's a lesson for all of us to learn. And I know you've brightened my book. You've made my book a better book. Having your case study in there, will make my book a much better book. I know that for sure. Yeah, but so, maybe I was like, now that my friends know who you are, it's a start. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, especially Linda. Of course, once we do your books, Linda, we have to then do more shows.
Yes.
'Cause, you have to talk about the book and talk about the story,
Right.
the lessons, and everything. The more you can talk about your book, the more
Right.
people
And,
want
and
to.
learn how to use technology. Number one. Uh, That's that. Listen, and even learning how to turn your phone around, your camera. If I can get that done,
My
we're on a
friends,
roll here.
didn't I? When you pressed the button just now, and you suddenly went on landscape, I was like, no, and then you disappeared. I'm like, oh well, that was bound to happen, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, our friends don't know. I had a whole tour of your house, because we couldn't,
Yeah.
we couldn't turn the camera around.
Right, because you were looking at my cluttered desk table. You
There's
know what I
no
mean?
clutter. There's no clutter.
You
You
saw
haven't seen
all
my
of my
desk.
little junk, papers and stuff, all scattered. And then I said, okay, then let me get up and walk around and go to another view. You know what I mean? So, so anyway, I had yeah, and that's something else too that AI is not going anywhere.
Hmm.
AI, it's not.
Hmm.
But I still say it's nothing more valuable than human intelligence. Period.
Agree. I agree. I agree. No, look, AI
Mhm.
is it's a tool. It
Yes.
can do many things. And I think it's something like I was asked a couple of days ago, which AI tools do you use? I'm like, I use many things for different things. I have my spell checkers, I have my design tools, I have my get some ideas tools. I'm saying, but we are still the humans behind all of it. Right? It's our creativity, it's our passion, it's our endeavor, it's our drive to get things done.
Yeah.
It's our mindset that will change people's lives. Not AI is not going to do anything by itself. I'm sure it
Right.
can, but I'm saying, but it's what we do that really counts. What we do with AI, especially, can make our impact even more. So no, but look, all of us are struggling with technology. Linda, the day when my show didn't go, my show just didn't start. I was like, wow, the cameras didn't work. That's out. And I'm like, damn, this is terrible. But we keep learning. We just keep learning, right? Maybe that should keep us humble to
Right.
realize that we don't know everything, and we
Right.
never will. Look, and I say I want to let you go, and my friends to go and do what else they have to do for the evenings. But I'll thank you all. Brother
Yes.
Charlie, I see you on my LinkedIn. I don't see you on my
Thank you.
restream, but you're here. Welcome, sir. Thank you. Always great to have you here. Please, Brother Charlie, watch the replay. Watch it. Watch the replay. This is definitely worth watching. So Linda is a legend, and when you watch the replay, you see why, my friend. Look, if anyone knows someone famous, let me know. Someone who should have achieved big things and your name goes before you, let me know. I'd love to talk to them on my show to learn from them and their journey. Right, Linda, look, thank you so much for
Yes.
your
Thank
time.
you.
I'll message you then. Let's set up a Zoom call. That way, we're not like we give time to your book conversation as we should.
Yes. All
Yeah,
right. Thank
look,
you.
my friends,
Any?
do connect with Linda. No, thank you. No,
Yes.
I'm the one thanking you. Really,
Yes.
like you made my day, you made my week, you made my year. But you enjoy your
Thank
evening,
you.
my friend. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you.
Take care. How do I
Ah,
scroll down to play my song? Okay, let me try. I'm gonna try, my friends. If it works, then the song plays, then we leave. But take care, everyone. Thank you for giving us your time. Let's try. Right. What's going on here? Something's going on here. All right. Amy's not that successful in that one. Yeah, it's worked. Okay. Bye, Linda. Bye, bye. Bye, everyone.
bye.
Bye, bye.
Bye.
And he sees you. He sees you. He sees you. Oh, from the children with no voice in borrowed rooms to the magazines that carry their truth. 25 years of the same steady hand, finding the ones who fell through the cracks of the plan. From Mitcham to Croydon, from London to the world, every flag he planted said, you matter, you're hurt, but there's a man who finds you in the car.
I don't know what happened there. I can't believe we're still live.